Hello. How are you today? Welcome to a new video where we're going to continue talking about the digital axis. There is a digital divide. We're talking a bit about different outcomes of the internet so far, but about inequality in terms of internet. In addition to looking at individual level variables to determine how new media are adopted by users, we must also consider institutional factors that shape new technologies. The rapid increase in the number of internet users was complemented by exponential growth in the amount of information available on the web. In 1995, there were fewer than 2,000 websites. That number grew to over 40 million by 2003, representing millions of web pages with as many as 2 million pages added daily. A large portion of those billions of web pages is available on the web for public use. Any individual organization if they know how to create a site can contribute content to the public web. Nowadays, we even often see websites where you can easily modify a template, pay for a domain, and hosting suite. But isn't that problematic at all? Or it shouldn't be problematic, right? The technicalities of making such content as available to users as the most popular websites are more or less the same. However, information abundance still leaves the problem of attention scarcity. Attention scarcity leads individual creators of content to rely on online gatekeepers to channel their material to our users, and leads users to rely on such services to find their way to content on the web. What if YouTube disappears tomorrow, for example? Where will we be hanging our own videos for people to see? And if those websites will be having like the same approach, same expansion, same algorithms, even the website, would it be like suitable for you, attractive for you? Would you like to be a user of the new platform? You were actually obligated to use because all of a sudden it's just disappear. Just imagine that situation. But anyways, what services that categorize online information can be considered gatekeepers on the World Wide Web? The term gatekeeper refers to points and function as gates blocking the flow of some material while allowing other information to pass through. Although there may be numerous high quality sites on the web, there is no guarantee that anyone will find their way to them. The central concern is no longer what is produced, but what consumers hear and know about. And now we can't even pay to get that content to you. Why? So it's not even best website with the best design is going to win. The best website with the best user experience is going to get you first every time you do a Google search. No, it's actually the one who pays the most, or actually the one who uses SEO and SEM techniques better than the other person. And most of the times, that's also paid. And that's the reality. Or may I say, is it a concern? The central concern is no longer what is produced, but by consumers. want. Accordingly, gatekeeping activity still occurs, but it now takes place at the level of information exposure. Its location has shifted from the decision about what should be produced to the control of what materials get to the consumers, of what they become aware of. Now, simple data as location, age, gender, number of people, or devices you live with, and similar data information uh, are more relevant nowadays. Users with more advanced web skills or web usage skills will be less dependent on such gatekeepers and can sidestep them more easily to find information of interest to them. In order to understand the implication of gatekeeping for the researchability of online content, whether commercial or non-profit content, individual or governmental materials, it is important to distinguish between content that is merely present on the web in contrast to content to which users are readily exposed. To make this distinction, we will use the word available to refer to material that exists online and accessible to the known content that is easily within the reach of web users. Whereas availability means mere existence, accessibility implies relative ease of reachability. That's why the search engines are so important and have been. As the amount of web content grew exponentially, search engines became increasingly important in sifting through online material. According to the survey, 85% of users have used a search engine, according to Pew in 2002. Although seemingly neutral, search engines systematically exclude certain sites in favor of others, either by design or by accident and by bidding as well. Search engines index no more than a small portion of all web pages, and even collectively, the largest engines only account for combined coverage of just a fraction of all information online. This suggests that there is great discrepancy between what is physically available on the web and what is realistically accessible to users. I think that's why a bunch of papers just get lost through time. They aren't highly discovered, therefore, it won't appear on the first 5 pages every time you do the search. Undoubtedly, the entry of the private sector into the internet world encouraged its widespread and the growth in online content. Search engines and port sites assist millions of users every day in finding information online. So why is it a problem that commercial internet interests sometimes guide the content selection on popular sites? The concern is that search engines that are guided by profit motivates may point people away from the most relevant and best quality sites in favor of those that have paid the highest bids for placement on the results page, regardless of their quality or specific relevance to the search query. Now we have powers everywhere, but that's also a form of income. So the dichotomy is that we live in a world we cannot get rid of those anymore. We also have a large scale search engine usage data, and it is suggesting that users merely rely on the first page of results to a search query. A study analyzing almost 1 billion queries on the AltaVista search engine showed that in 85% of the cases, users only view the first screen of results And this was only in 1999, and I cannot even see the numbers of today. Web users' habits have not changed much over the years. Another study in 2002 compared data on the use of the Excite search engine from 1997, 1999, and 2001, and found that the mean number of results pages users looked at had it decreased over time. The data in this study also showed that the majority of users rely on simple queries without the use of advanced search features mentioned earlier, so they don't even filter the information anymore. And I don't know if you ever look at, but I think the buttons you have before every time you did a Google search, like how you want it for them to search the information, I don't see them often anymore. Should we have better filters online for every single search or every basic search? Let me know. And we're only talking about the peak of the internet. And when we hit 2001, it was already decreasing. If you want to know more about the peak of the internet of the early 2000s, there's a video read about that, so go check it out. This finding suggests that users heavily relied on sites for presenting them with information rather than using sophisticated search strategies to fine tune their queries. This implies that information promptly displayed on portal sites, whether selected because of high content value or for commercial reasons. And high content value for who, you might also ask. This has a good chance of being the destination of visitors. If users do not possess advanced know-how about how content is organized and presented to them online, then they are especially at the mercy of what content sites decide to feature promptly and make easily accessible to them. So even though there's like a page that has like a bunch of views, it might not be helpful to you, but the search engine say like, hey, this website is heavily visited. It has to be because of something valuable is there. But do you have the same value? Or do you find the same thing valuable as everyone else? Why is that site so popular? Did it have paid media advertising involved? We need to ask those questions too. Sites spend significant resources on optimizing their content to show up as results. We talked about SEO and SEM before. In fact, an entire industry has sprung up around search engine optimization, offering advice on how companies and others can best assure that their websites climb to the top of search engine results. We also talk about GEO, what can be optimized to appear on AI search engines nowadays as well. So you're seeing that, you're seeing the pattern. In contrast, the sites with the most relevant content may be posted by a non-profit organization or by an individual on his or her own initiative and only appear far down the results list because the owners of such sites do not have the resources to optimize for search engine positioning. There was the boom of blogs back in the day, but when something is trendy, it says like, okay, this word is being like searched a lot, so we're going to put our content around this. But once the trend is over, also the high traffic is going to lower down a bit for those sites if they don't start spending more time and money, etc. Because when a trend is over, it can have its peaks again, but it's going to be based on peaks because it is going to be a trend. That's what trend does. So the overall concern due to the prominence of commercial interest on the web is not that users will normally be roped into purchasing information. they could otherwise obtain for free. Although this may happen as well, but that they may not find what they are looking for or may miss the best available information because those resources are crowded out by the profit seeking ventures. Accordingly, inequality exists at the level of content production and distribution in the digital world as well. So, in a world in which we were a bit so that we can be equal, we are not. The approach to the digital divide focuses on the binary classification of internet use, merely distinguishing those who are connected from those who do not have access to the medium. Related policy discussions also limit their focus to targeting connectedness without expanding the issue to questions of skill, which can only be achieved by also paying serious attention to training. If only we actually pick our web pages as we pick books. Haven't you figured out that we spend more time picking out and deciding to even buy a book? And not only that, deciding to if we even download a PDF of that book for free on the internet, but we are there doing like how many Google searches per day or Bing searches per day, and whatever search engine you use, without even being that specific or segmented or meticulous about it. So just think about it. If we had a range of that decision making when picking up what kind of pencil am I going to buy today for this specific task. If we just do that with the web pages, it could be something else. Because what's the value of a sea of entire information? We cannot even look 1% of it. What's the point? Why not reducing the quantity, not having everything like just pulled out? I can build out a website and put it on the web in 5 minutes. What for? Why do they need people so many web pages? Why do we need that? If we cannot even read the 1% of it in our entire life, we will need to get back over and over again in order just to read the 1% of it to get aware of what was written there. What do you think? Discussions about internet use have focused on access only at the expense of considering details about use. In the case of the telephone, it makes sense to target only access, as there are only a limited number of ways in which one may use that medium. But that was back in the day. We have the effective access to the internet going in a longer way, much more than simply having a network connecting machine. Rather, it includes the ability to use the medium effectively and efficiently, enable users to benefit from the medium from the start. These necessary online skills can only be achieved universally by focusing policy not only on improving access but also on investing in training for everyone. For example, Bull and Crawford in 2000 found that although there has been a rapid increase in the number of public schools offering internet access nowadays, every public institution must have an internet list. Support for the necessary training and staffing has lagged behind, and it continues like that. Instead of drawing parallels to policy debates about any other access and devices, when considering internet access policy, a better analogy is to reflect on the varied dimensions of literacy. We do not think about literacy in binary terms. Children are not simply given a book in the first grade and expected to read, nor are they given excerpts from Shakespeare on their first day of class. Instead, we invest in teaching students how to read gradually. The history of literacy shows that our understanding of functional literacy has evolved considerably over time, requiring flexibility in education policy to keep up with the changing landscapes. Similarly, it is too simplistic to assume that merely providing an internet connection to people will obliterate all potential access differences among users. Rather, a more refined approach to the digital divide and a more comprehensive understanding of digital inequality are necessary if we are to avoid increasing inequalities among different segments of the population due to disparity in effective access to all the internet has to offer. And do you find it curious that a tool that was made for us to be more connected and for everyone to access to it was found that it was like in a new arena for us to show how not equal we are. Just a digital environment where we can show case and make clear about our own differences in both a good and a negative way. Thank you so much for being here. If you made it to this point, go check the channel and let me know your comments below. We'd love to read your thoughts. Have a nice rest of your evening, morning, or night. Keep up, even though the world might leave you behind. Take care. Bye bye.